John Lewis has been quite the hot topic this week, and not because of a deal on flat-screen tellies or its women's springwear collection, even though I do love their fabrics. No, gone are the days when businesses like John Lewis made headlines for doing their actual job and selling you home furnishings, fashions or electronic goods. This is a company whose disastrous management under chairman Dame Sharon White, appointed with a stellar CV but zero retail experience, has seen its profits collapse and widespread store closures, whilst seemingly more focused on box-ticking political correctness. We had to put up with the rainbow flags at branches of Waitrose, which some gay people consider homophobic and which some women consider misogynistic. We had that strange home insurance ad a couple of years ago in which a little boy dressed as a girl in a lovely bit of social engineering smashes up the family home whilst mother and daughter look on aghast. And now the Telegraph report that John Lewis has distributed a magazine for more than 70,000 staff that advises parents on how to find breast binders for transgender children. So, what is a breast binder? If you don't know, frankly, I envy you. Essentially, it's a medieval-style device which straps down a growing girl's breasts in order to restrict their growth and give these female teenagers a more masculine shape. They are designed to stop young girls' breasts from growing. What a time to be alive. The magazine recommends support for the charity Mermaids, which tells young people that they may have been born in the wrong body. Mermaids is currently under investigation by the Charity Commission over safeguarding concerns. There's a surprise. Mermaids also support so-called puberty blockers. What are puberty blockers? Well, if you don't know, once again, I envy you. This is a cocktail of chemicals given to teenagers to stop them going through puberty, which has huge potential implications for their long-term health, the development of their reproductive organs, and their ability to have children in the future. Now, furious GPs have branded the department store's in-house magazine irresponsible. And the Telegraph quote Dr. Louise Irvine, co-chair of the Clinical Advisory Network on Sex and Gender, who has said that these bizarre devices, the strange chest-flattening devices, which would surely double up as an instrument of torture in a different era, risk, and I quote, damage to the breasts, damage to the skin, chest wall muscles and ribs. They can cause pain, restriction in breathing, and make young girls less likely to participate in sports or exercise. Charming. The magazine is called Identity. It's been distributed by John Lewis to its staff and is produced by a group called the LGBTQIA+ network. That's a lot of letters, isn't it? Well, I can think of a word comprised of just 4. The magazine features a piece on raising trans and non-binary children, whatever that means, and it focuses on a mother who we can call Jennifer, who says she was not surprised that her daughter wanted to transition to be a boy, as he hadn't worn anything girly since he was 8. Has this mother never heard of tomboys? I'd put that poor child into care. Trans ideology, which peddles the biologically impossible idea that you can change your sex, is so extreme and so bonkers that these breast binders are actually the least shocking intervention out there. That's just entry-level stuff. It's hormones, double mastectomies, and the removal of reproductive organs, which are the ultimate destination for many young people who may just have been confused, vulnerable, misguided, gay, or depressed. I'm honestly not clear how chopping up your body or stopping it from growing properly is going to boost your mood or enhance your life outcomes. Make it make sense. This whole story saddens me because I really love John Lewis, especially its brilliant staff. I want this fantastic business to prevail. But with an established and iconic brand like John Lewis now caught up in this madness and platforming what many argue is the mutilation of children and at the very least physical damage, it's just a matter of time before the wider public realise how in the grip of this crazy leftist ideology our private and public institutions have become. And with people being ordered to sign up to this nonsense by having to present their pronouns in emails and meetings, it is tyranny posing as empathy. Come back and see me in 10 years' time when those poor young people who have had their bodies butchered regret the decision and can't go back. With the likes of John Lewis participating in this, no wonder their profits are tumbling. This once great institution, like many, is in the grip of woke ideology and has forgotten that it's there to sell us fruit and veg, Samsung TVs and sensible shoes. John Lewis are famously never knowingly undersold. But for scores of their customers shocked by this woke madness, they will never knowingly go there again. Your reaction, mark at gbnews.com. Now, let me tell you that my team has been in touch with John Lewis all day. They've been very communicative, they've been very fair, and we've had an awful lot of feedback from them about this story. So let me provide you with the statement that they've given to Mark Dolan tonight. They've said the John Lewis Partnership is a welcoming place for people to work or shop, irrespective of their background or beliefs. The Identity magazine was created by members of our LGBTQIA+ network, in which our partners, as we call our employees, share their experiences. The magazine was not edited or funded by the management of the John Lewis Partnership. It's wrong to suggest the magazine provides advice from the partnership. There you go. Well, look, thanks to John Lewis for that reply. I don't want them to close down, but I want them to wise up. Let's get reaction from my top pundits. Former Brexit Party MEP Annunciata Rees-Mogg, farmer and ex-Tory MP Neil Parish, and trade unionist and political commentator Andy MacDonald. I have to start with you, Annunciata, because we're talking about young girls here being encouraged to wear chest-flattening devices. Your reaction?
I think it's absolutely horrific. It's a practice that is known to have potentially lifelong consequences for girls who have not yet fully developed, let alone the more temporary back pain, skin rashes, breathing problems, even broken ribs that can be caused by binding girls' breasts. The idea that John Lewis, a bastion of this country, is allowing this to go out under its name, and whether funded by it or not, it is one of their in-house magazines. It has, therefore, a sort of authority from the John Lewis brand. And, of course, they're inclusive. We all want everyone to be treated equally, no matter what their preference is in any way. But to think it's OK to encourage children to take lifelong decisions can never be right. And I'm pretty sure that the 70,000 partners or staff at John Lewis would have rather had their bonus in 2023 than get a magazine telling them how their children can deform themselves.
Now, Andy MacDonald, this is a sort of magazine within a magazine distributed by John Lewis. They didn't sort of fund it or publish it themselves, but obviously they've platformed it. And this recommendation of certain types of chest-flattening devices came from one of the individual partners offering their experience, I think, of a trans child. So what's your reaction to this story? Are John Lewis guilty only of being inclusive?
I mean, you know, the statement from John Lewis made it quite clear. They didn't fund it. They didn't particularly support it. It was done by a network of staff members. You know, it's hard to put I doubt that the chief executive or any of the board know what goes on in these kind of member networks to such a great detail that they're reading every single article. I struggle to comment on it because it's a group of individuals who are writing about their personal experiences, whether they're gay or trans or they've had gay or trans children. You know, it's just someone's experience. I think some of the rhetoric that's come out about this has just been incredibly damaging, considering, you know, the tragic loss of Brianna J and the fallout of that over the last few weeks. I think we just need to roll it back on the anti-trans rhetoric and just let it sit for a while.
Well, you're absolutely right. First of all, I've got friends, Andy, who are trans, and they've been on that important journey. It's who they feel they are. But I've got to say, I draw the line at recommending medication to pubescent children to stop puberty happening, or young girls strapping their breasts down. For me, that's a red line. Would you tend to agree?
Sure, I guess, but, you know, they're acting as in an individual opinion. You know, they're not a medical doctor. They're a staff member at John Lewis. I think if you're taking serious medical advice from a staff member at John Lewis, then you've got bigger issues to worry about.
Yes, and Neil Parish, I'm not sure that this is necessarily an anti-trans story, and it's certainly not the sentiment of My Take at 10, but it's certainly anti-children making decisions about their bodies which they could well come to regret.
Yeah, Mark, I think we're a very dangerous path with all of this, because once somebody is old enough to make up their own mind about what sexuality they are, then fine, let them do that. But I think there's far too much pressure on children and young people, and this sort of thing just does not help. I mean, I'm unashamedly conservative with a small c on this, because I think, sexuality, let's be what we want to be, but let's be old enough, and let's not start taking drugs and strapping ourselves up and doing all sorts of things that will perhaps change our sexuality, and as the point that you made, is later on hugely regret it. So why are we try to protect children in so many ways, quite rightly, and yet in a way with all of this we're going in the opposite direction that we would normally do to protect children. And I think, let's sort of be realistic about this and let children grow up and be what they want to be, but not influence them too much in the meantime.
Of course, many would argue that trans people, particularly young trans people, suffer from terrible abuse in society, mental health issues, and therefore they need support, they need understanding, and they need to be included. Perhaps they even need to be treated. Let me know your thoughts, Mark, at gbnews.com. Mark Dolan tonight, the home of diverse opinion.